Hi everyone online. We're finally bringing chapter 30 to a close with two examples taken from exercises 133. This is chapter 30 of Shelmerdine, page 210. Whoever had money always had friends. So let's talk about what kind of condition we're looking for here. This is actually much more crucial in English to Greek than Greek to English, because we need to figure out what do we need to be doing, what forms do we need to make. So whoever had money always had friends. This seems to be pretty general, right? But it's not just general, it's past general. So we're talking about things that used to be happening in the past reliably. So what do we do for this sort of condition? Well, if we were to go back to chapter 28, page 197, we would see that a past general protasis, again, so we can kind of divide these up into protasis and apodosis. And at that point, we had if clauses. Now we're going to be dealing with a conditional relative. But we had a plus optative in the protasis. And then in the apodosis, we had the imperfect indicative. Good. So whoever had money, that's going to be our protasis. That's our if clause in essence here, right? Always had friends, and that's going to be imperfect, even though that to us might sound a little bit more past tense than that, like a pluperfect or something else. This is exactly what we'll want. We'll want to follow this form, but now we're going to be replacing a with the right form of the indefinite relative. So let's make a bigger eraser and get started. So whoever, well, what case are we going to need? We're going to need nominative because it's the subject, and we need singular because we're talking about one person. We don't know who, but it's going to be one person. And then we're going to be chauvinistic. We're going to follow the Greek model and use a masculine form. But note that if we were at a convent, or if this were at an ancient meeting of all women, you know, the cult of Artemis at Brauron, we could have a feminine form where we would have, right, hey, hastis, whomever as a nominative feminine singular, but let's do it how the Greeks would certainly have expected it to be done. Hostis, whoever had money. So now we need to find our form of the optative. Before we do that, we can just fill out the accusative direct object pretty easily. Hostis had, ta cremata, always, always had friends. So had, we want the imperfect here. We'll get to the hardest verb last. So imperfect of echo, right? So echo, we need to take off the primary tense ending. We need to augment the epsilon. So to do that, we would basically be doing this, which then we know combines into eich. And then we need a third person singular secondary tense ending, eike. Always had friends. Philus. All right. Now for our optative. So we know it needs to be optative in mood. What tense does it need to be? Whoever had money always had friends. Well, it could really go either way. We could have aorist, but then that would be simple in aspect. And though we get some idea of generalized here, we'd also want to kind of showcase that in the verb itself. So we're going to want a present tense optative, which is more progressive in its meaning. So our present tense, as we just saw, ech, is going to be our stem. And now we need to put on the appropriate optative ending. This would send us back to chapter 26, page 177, and it'll just be standard. You all probably knew this already. Drew it poorly there. Ekoi. Whoever had money, that person always had friends. Good. Oh, I forgot the accent on feelers. All right. Nice. Whoever had money always had friends. Nice. Good past general condition. You know, in previous chapters, we might have seen something like this. If you had money, you always had friends. Something like that. That was something that we could do, but we couldn't do this when talking indefinitely about a person. Now we can, and you drop the if. The if gets contained within the whoever. All right, good. We hope to persuade anyone who will listen to us. That's a great sentence. Let me change color. I'm tired of this, whatever color we were using. We hope, all right, to persuade. So how's that going to work? It's going to work just like in English, somewhat, that we're going to get a complementary infinitive. But what's special about the verb hope in Greek? What is the verb hope, first of all? So, elpidzo, I hope. So we hope, we're going to change that to amen. We are hoping, we hope. But now we need to look up what chapter did this appear in. And that turns out to be chapter 13, page 75. And two verbs, elpidzo and mello, to intend. If you intend something, if you hope for something, you're hoping for something in the future. So these take not just a complementary infinitive, but a future complementary infinitive. Only these two verbs. There are a couple others that have similar meanings in Greek that will do the same thing, but we're not used to seeing this. So we need the future infinitive of the verb to persuade. So the verb to persuade is peitho. What happens when we make it future? Well, we're going to get peitho. The sigma is going to win that battle, and we got peso. I will believe. All right, so far so good. One thing that I'll want to point out, which is frustrating and should be frustrating, is the fact that a recently learned verb, pasco, to suffer, has the deponent future pesomai. So the future of persuade, to be persuaded, looks a lot like the future of the verb to suffer. I mean, we have this sort of thing not infrequently in English either, especially if you were to think about all the homophones we have between bear and bear, for example. These things happen in languages. Sometimes they can be written exactly the same and have very different meanings. It's tough. That's frustrating, but so we go. But then we need the future infinitive, which is going to be pesein. Elpidzomen pesein. We hope to persuade anyone, all right, who will listen to us. So now we've got a problem. If you're going to persuade somebody, let's say we're going to say, we hope to persuade them. Well, that would be easy. We'd say, okay, we persuade people in the accusative, autus, done. Then we need to say who will listen to us. Who will listen means that, note that there's not an M here. It's not whom will listen to us. No, we're looking for subject here. We're looking for a word that will be in the nominative case. Who will listen to us? This is where things get a little bit messy in Greek, and you got to make a choice. Do we want to have something that's accusative here, or do we want to have something that's nominative? In this case, and often it will be the case, we're going to take the conditional. I guess this isn't conditional at all. This is just the indefinite relative. Whoever will listen to us. We want to prioritize that. So we're going to make this quite possibly a nominative. So who will listen to us? Anyone. So we've already said anyone. So we're not talking groups of people, we're talking individuals. So we'll want something like hostis, whoever will listen. And remember, listen, the akuo verb is deponent in the future. So acous, and then we want third person singular passive, acousatai, and then to us. Again, you hear people in the genitive. So simply he mon. Whoever will listen to us, we hope to persuade. One could make an argument here that hon tina, whomever, also works. And in a certain way, that also works well here because we've got no ambiguity in this phrase. Whoever will listen to us, the nominative controlling this future verb, but this future verb takes a genitive object. So by putting an accusative subject in here, there's a little bit of a dissonance here, but there's either going to be dissonance here, that we have an accusative acting as a subject, or there's going to be dissonance here, that we've got a nominative acting as the direct object. I think we're going to prefer this, but I mean, we have who and whom issues in English. This is the same sort of issue that we're running into here. Do you want to treat it as whoever or whomever? Whatever is going to be a little bit more clear in context is exactly the thing to use. So I'm going to make this the authorized translation, but really either way would have worked. So to quickly summarize our English to Greek translations, whoever had money always had friends. This is clearly aiming, Shelmerdine was angling for this past general condition. So we replaced what used to be an A, and just a regular straight up condition, with a indefinite relative hostis. We use the optative singular, and we used a present one because the timing of it, the aspect, was more than simple. To have money, you're going to have money for a while. It's going to be progressive. So whoever had money for a while always had friends. And that also just squares nicely with the apodosis, the meaning there. We want progressive aspect. Good. We hope to persuade anyone who will listen to us. So we hope, we elpidzamen, nice standard present, but this verb, like the verb mellow, takes a complementary infinitive that's in the future. So we use peisein. And then we now have this phrase, who will listen to us? And we had the option of choosing either nominative to work within the indefinite relative clause, or an accusative to function more in line with the verb peisein, to persuade. So those were our options that we had. We chose this one, but really either one is functional. Hope that helped, and we'll see you in chapter 31.